Hello, my name is Nick Ward. I'm the director of the National Autistic Society Scotland, and I'm here today to give you a little bit of an update on our work and some of the things that have been happening with the organisation. This has been an incredibly challenging time for autistic people and their families, and it's been an incredibly challenging time for everyone indeed, but we know that the effects of coronavirus have been particularly hard for autistic folks. We know that people have felt more isolated. We know that people have struggled with the anxiety, and we know as well that there has been a deep impact on people's mental health. So we've tried our best as our organisation to risen to some of those challenges and offer the support that we can. And I'm going to go into a little bit of that in a moment. I think it's also worth saying that how proud I am of our staff team who have done incredible work over this period, where many of them have had really difficult times, as we all have had, with both working from home, family challenges, and getting used to this new norm. So I just want to call that out now, and I'll probably call it out at the end as well, because I just think that they really do deserve some plaudits. I suppose the first sort of big thing to put into context is that, like many organisations and charities, we had a significant hit to our income when we went into quarantine. Quarantine came roughly at the same time as World Autism Awareness Week, which was one of our biggest fundraisers of the whole year. So we ended up having to project quite a substantial loss. However, we've been very, very successful, both in the generosity of people who have supported the organisation through a varied amounts of fundraising, things like the Kilt Walk or sponsored swims, which has just been brilliant. So thank you to all of those people. But all the kind support of the Scottish Government and the National Lottery Fund as well, who have been really, really great in supporting some of our work and allowing us to expand some of the things, in fact, we think would make the most difference. So I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about our programs now. So with the onset of COVID-19, we took the really difficult decision to stop all person-to-person support in March, which was a really hard thing to do. And we then began the sort of mammoth task of moving our programs online. Now, for some of them, that was easier to do than others, but we had to go through all the steps I think other organizations have had to do. What platform do we use to do this? Do we need new rules to figure out how we do it? How do we onboard people that we're supporting into this process? Are staff comfortable delivering in an online forum? It really was a huge task, and it's interesting how sometimes a crisis can force you to do things you've wanted to do for some time. We wanted to do more online activities, we wanted to do more program delivery, but the reality was that life in the world just kept getting in the way. And this crisis really forced us to look completely at everything that we did and to put it online. So we moved our social groups online, which are incredibly popular. So now there are online social groups. We were running up to last month. We're still running them now, but we've slimmed them down a bit. We're running over 30 different online social groups across Scotland, and so well over 200 autistic people every single week, which is for a very small staff team doing that is a mammoth achievement. And some of the feedback we got from the social groups was incredible. So people telling us that they suddenly felt less alone. They felt like they had more structure to the week. They felt as well that they were able to share and explore. They were able to share their own interests and explore the interests of others, which I think is wonderful. We also got some really interesting feedback from autistic folk. So people were telling us that actually they wouldn't have engaged in an in-person social group, but they found an online social group actually much easier for them to do, that they could regulate their engagement more. So, if they suddenly felt uncomfortable, they could turn their camera off, they could turn their microphone off, they could sort of adjust how much they engaged, and they could feel comfortable with that. So I think that's a really interesting learning, and I'm really interested to know other people's experiences of that, that whilst I think we all agree that online meetings can be exhausting, there are also some other benefits as well. We also launched our first pan-UK social group. So we launched a Lego-themed one, which has been a huge success. And we're now going to be developing a series of national UK online branches. And these online branches are basically, the core of them is a social group, But the idea is that they reflect intersectional identities or particular niche interests that people might have, where you might not be able to get support in your local community, or you might not be able to find out people that's interested in that thing in your local community. But if we go online and we go across the whole country, the whole of the UK, then you can find others who are interested in that. So keep an eye out for them coming soon. We're just sort of getting some things sorted, but that's really exciting. We received funding from the National Lottery to do that, which is great. One of the other really significant changes is that we launched our new sort of platform for how people can interact online. It's called NAS Connect. It's basically Microsoft Teams, if I'm honest with you. It's Microsoft Teams, but externally facing. So we use Microsoft internally. But what we discovered was that it was very difficult to make it work with external people, and then sort of invite them in, and they didn't have full use of like accessing files and be able to use the chat functions. So we set up a sort of new organizational teams called NAS Connect to do this. And we've supported all of our branches to begin working and using that, which is great. So even though people can't meet face to face, there's a secure, private online forum where they can share ideas, continue to meet, and share resources and things, which is just brilliant. We had a very significant change where we decided to end the education service at Daldork House. So some of you may be aware that we have a school in Ayrshire called Daldork House School, which supports about 20 young people. Now, we made the difficult decision to end the education service because a couple of things had happened. But the main one being that the people at Daldork House had reached an age where they were looking to leave. And we didn't have a sort of cohort of younger people coming in. And so we were kind of left with a choice, which was, do you say, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go, and we have to try and find lots of new people to come into the service? Or do we say, actually, many of these people have been with us for a very long time. They have wonderful relationships with the staff and with each other. So why don't we change this service into an adult service? And that's what we've done. So we've deregistered it as a school, and it's now become an adult service alongside Catrin Bank in very picturesque Catrin in Ayrshire. So that's been a really big activity to do, especially during lockdown. But it's went pretty smoothly, to be honest, and we're really, really happy that we're going to be able to keep supporting so many of the people that we have such affection for and we've got such good relationships with, which is great. We also managed to secure the funding for our Highland Information Service, which is wonderful. And we have got to continue supporting for our Ayrshire One-Stop Shop, which is great as well. And actually, with our Ayrshire One-Stop Shop, we're expanding the services that we offer there, which is great. We're looking at to offer more supportive seminars, and we've started some Ayrshire-specific social groups, which is, I think, really needed. We've also successfully moved our person-to-person service online. So person-to-person was basically a social group service for people over the age of 26. So what we discovered is that actually there are many autistic people who want to socialize with their peers, but don't want to necessarily socialize with young people. Fair enough. So we developed that, we moved that online, and we changed it a bit. So originally it was offering mentoring and e-mentoring support, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it was a very successful aspect of the program. And what we discovered was that there wasn't very high demand for these aspects. So instead, what we decided to do was to sort of change it a bit and to expand the sort of coffee club social group aspect, but to look at some of the things that we heard were coming up through the mentoring process. So we created more social opportunities. We created a fixers group, so that's for people who are interested in fixing things, which is interesting. An LGBT group, which is great, and a late diagnostic group, and a signposting group. And they're all going very, very well, which is wonderful. And they've had the signposting one in particular. I wasn't too sure about, so what exactly is that? And basically, it's about discussing issues and where you go for more support. But we've had some really interesting guests who have come to that one who have been really influential in helping people know what to do and when they get to certain tricky moments. We also have received a further 3 years funding for our Moving Forward Employment Programme, which is just hugely brilliant from Cashback for Communities. So thank you for that. And the program will be changing as well. So what we're going to do is we've slightly changed the areas that we work in for that. And we're going to start working with school refusers and autistic young people who are perhaps coming to the end of their school time and struggling to know where to go next and how to continue that journey. So that's brilliant. We were also really pleased to receive funding from the Glasgow City Council Community Fund for a new programme for Glasgow City, which will include a new launch of a new branch in Glasgow City as well, which is grand. And then the latest bit of news, I suppose, on our programmes is that we have just about successfully launched our first online branch in the UK, which will be for the Highlands and Islands, which is just wonderful. So we've often struggled to deliver services and support in the Highlands because of the geography, because of funding constraints. So we think that an online approach is something that would be really, really good. And this will be an excellent place for us to work with autistic people and their families, to test things out, and to try and build a really strong, resilient community of people who can meet online and maybe eventually one day meet in person. If that ever happens again, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. In terms of other things that have happened, we have launched our new website. Now, the Scotland website isn't really great yet, I'll be honest with you, but the UK website is looking good, and we're fixing the Scotland bit very quickly. And one of the things that it's got is it's got a low arousal mode, which changes the colors and the fonts a little bit and the pictures to make the website a little bit less jarring for people that might find the sensory challenge of reading websites a little bit difficult. We managed to get the Scottish Government to do quite a lot of stuff for autistic people over the course of the pandemic, of the first wave as opposed to the pandemic. So we were really, really pleased that we managed to secure, alongside Scottish Autism and others, exemptions for autistic people around mask wearing, that we've been pushing really heavily to make it clear in all sorts of communications that people should wear masks unless they can't. And we also had to raise a number of times some of the challenges, particularly in the early days of autistic people and their family members being challenged, sometimes inappropriately, by people, but sometimes also by the authorities and by the police. So we raised that with Police Scotland, and we built a really positive relationship there. And we're really pleased to have developed a new co-branded autism alert card with the Scottish Government and Police Scotland. And one of the things that we're working on now is we're also working on a new health passport, which will be a Scotland-based health passport for people to take into hospital if they have to go there, to make sure that their autism needs are met. We also were very successful, I think, in getting lots of media coverage. We raised the issues affecting autistic people in newspapers and on the BBC, on STV. We've really been working very, very hard alongside our partners to make sure that the needs of autistic people don't get forgotten in this time when there's so many other challenges out there at the moment. As you may be aware, we're launching a cross-party group report. I think this month when you watch this, we're launching a cross-party group this month. It's going to be, the cross-party group is the Scottish Parliament group, which looks over autism issues, but also the autism strategy. And this report is one that we have co-written with Scottish Autism, and it is a report into how effective the national strategy for autism has been, and recommendations of what should come next. Now, the CPG is going to be held online for the first time, so we've been working hard to try and make that work. And we're really looking forward to launching that report. And I just want to do a shout out, particularly to Jason, who's one of our staff members who did the majority of the writing of that report, because it was kind of like writing another dissertation. So thank you for that, Jason. As you may also be aware, if you've listened to one of the other talks that I've been part of, we have made substantial progress in moving towards the idea of an Autism and Learning Disability Commissioner. We have forged an alliance with Enable and with Scottish Autism, and we're proposing now that a Learning Disability and Autism Commissioner become law. We've been working really, really hard with different people. We've engaged with autistic people and heard their thoughts, and we're very much looking to moving forward with them. We know that it's a bit controversial that it is with learning disability, but we ultimately believe that the chance of getting it, the chance of it being successful, is only really possible if we include learning disability. And there is significant crossover with the issues that affect those populations. But we are also hugely aware that there are significant differences between autistic people and people with learning disability. And we're going to be making sure that in our communications and things, we're making that very, very clear. We've also successfully made sure that we've been working with the Scottish Government on a transition and transformation roadmap, which we're really excited about. And hopefully that will be getting published soon. And we think there are lots of really exciting things for the autism community in that. We think there's lots of commitments that will make a big difference to people's lives. And we think that actually, in many ways, the Scottish Government is being very bold, and we thank them and congratulate them for that. And we're also really pleased that actually writing it was a process of collaboration. And I think when it comes out, people will be very pleased to see some of the things that are in there, which is important. So I suppose the final thing is that we are developing an ethnic strategy. That's in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think we were all inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, but we're also shocked at some of the issues that it raised and highlighted, and the treatment of Black and ethnic minority people, both in America but also in the UK as well. And this made it very, very clear to us that, in fact, I don't think as an organisation we have done enough on this issue. I think that's completely clear, and we need to do more. We need to look at the experiences of Black and ethnic minority people who are autistic, and what those experiences are, and how maybe they might have different needs, but also how being autistic and from an ethnic minority might affect them differently too. So we want to do more work on that. We want to engage with more people to understand those unique experiences. So we're developing this ethnic minority strategy in response to it. We're probably going to be publishing that, I think, in a couple of months. What we're doing at the moment is it's going around different stakeholders. So people in the community to have their thoughts and opinions. But I'm just really pleased that we're working on this. And I think it's something that we need to be thinking more about in terms of us going forward, is that sort of intersect approach, and thinking about different groups of people and different identities specifically, and how that sits alongside being autistic. So I think that's a sort of whistle-stop tour of all the things that have changed in the organisation. I suppose the thing that I want to say is that we have lots and lots of services that are available, particularly things around education. So our education rights service is great, things around social isolation, and of course we have our helpline and our information, advice and guidance as well. So if you do need something, please do reach out, and we will try to help and support. And I just want to say a final thank you to everyone who has supported us through this really difficult time, financially and morally, because we needed some morale boosting at times, and to all the wonderful autistic people and families who have worked with us, to our brilliant volunteers and people who have raised funds. And I think, as I said at the start, it's also right this year to do a specific call out to the magnificent staff team. Over the last 6 months, they have worked beyond their hours. They have worked incredibly hard in incredibly stressful circumstances with one focus in mind, which is how can we offer the best level of service and support to the autistic community. And I find that personally inspiring, and I think that the work they've done is incredible, and I want to take this opportunity to thank them for that work. I know that in the months ahead, there's a lot of work for us as an organisation to do alongside the community, because we want to make sure that 2021 is better than 2020. We want to make sure that we achieve change. We want to make sure that we get into law something that we believe will make a real difference to the lives of autistic people on the ground. And I think that we can achieve that together. Thank you.